our handle here is join Entre, at join Entre, and then Ryan's is at code problem, no code, no problem. All right, off to these guys. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, so I'm Jeremy. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Adalo, and so excited to see so many people here interested in no-code stuff that we're working on. It's kind of funny because when we started working on this project a little over 2 years ago now, the whole concept of no-code was a little bit new, even though Bubble exists already and people were thinking about it a lot. But when I talk to people, they're like, "Oh, so it's kind of like a low-code tool, or it's like a WYSIWYG," and they weren't really sure what that meant. And I was like, "No, it's kind of like no-code, not low-code." But it's come a long way, and now obviously a lot of people know about what's happening in the space, and we're just so excited to see everybody here. So today we're basically going to be talking about kind of how we got started, our origin story, how Adalo works as a product, what the cool things you can do are, and kind of what our inspiration was, and then how we believe the future will shape up for no-code. Adalo, just as a background, is basically the leading native mobile app development no-code platform. So Bubble is great if you want to build a web app, but at the moment, as Emmanuel was saying, they don't do native mobile apps, and we're really focused on that. We also do some cross-platform apps as well for web, but we're really focused on that mobile side and doing native experiences. So originally, I have kind of a design and engineering background, and I was based in California and San Francisco. I started kind of thinking about this problem because I had seen what had evolved with design tools, and then I just really got interested in what we could do. Through that process, I met David, my co-founder, and Ben, our third co-founder, who lived in St. Louis, Missouri. For the first, I think it was about 4 or 5 months, we worked remotely. And then eventually, I moved out to St. Louis. Now we're based in St. Louis, trying to build the future of no-code from the Midwest. So we had basically seen, the two of us separately had seen kind of the evolution of design tools, where now tools like InVision and Figma had been working. And then on the separate side, development tools had kind of made that no-code web development experience start to happen. So things like WordPress, Shopify, Webflow, and all those. At the same time, and it seemed like there should be something that connected the two together. Like so many people were asking about during the Bubble presentation, why isn't there anything that lets you go from a prototyping tool to an actual application? And that's kind of what we tried to solve. We built an application that looks and feels a lot like a prototyping tool, but the output is a real working app with real functionality and a data backend. So that's kind of what Adalo is in a nutshell, and I'll hand it over to David to talk about how to actually use the platform and show us a little demo of how Adalo can work.
Sweet. Hey everybody, my name is David. All right, so how does it work?
There are basically like only three, well I shouldn't say only, but there are three major things you have to understand to work Adalo. First, our components. You can think about those as like building blocks, so like an image list or a navigation bar, those types of things. Next are actions. So when I click on something, where does that go? What does it do? Does it trigger notification? Does it create something? And then finally is the database. So where is that information stored? All right, so now I'm going to show this off in a little bit of demo with those three things.
Able to do that with it?
Yeah. All right, you can hold it. All right, so like we talked about before, we definitely tried to make it feel a lot like InVision and Sketch and all those types of programs. So in our workspace here, you can see like we have all the screens that you're editing all at a time. And just orange, you guys, we're going to make like a basic kind of like trip app where you can like see trips to go on and like your friends can make trips and those types of things. So on the left-hand side, we have all the components like I talked about. And again, these are kind of like the building blocks. So if I want to drag in, for example, like a navigation bar, then I can drag that into the bottom of the screen. We also have here like a branding tabs. You can set like defaults for like colors and things like that. We have a list of all the screens that you have on there. And then what really makes this, again, different from like a prototyping tool is that, and same with like Bubble, is that there is actual backend behind it. So you can think about this as like basically just like a database of spreadsheets. So we have users, and they have different properties like email, password, username, and you can add whatever you want to those types of things. So you can add, birth date or any of those types of things that you'd want. And then you can also view all of those things from a spreadsheet view. So basically, like in this trip planning app, we have already input some stuff. You can import from CSV and other places as well. but you have the name of the trip. I can see like the short description, an image, who created it, all that kind of stuff. So then now let's actually go and like see how the magic works. So if I, for example, add a image list to this, then basically you're saying, okay, how do I connect that component to the database? And we basically ask you like, hey, what is this a list of? And in this case, I'm going to make it a list of destinations. And then on the back end, we try to like do a lot of guesses to say like, okay, like we know what the image is going to be, and we know that you probably want a destination name. So we try to do a bunch of defaults for you, and you can like toggle things on and off very much so like you would do in any of the other kind of like design and prototyping tools. So now let's see if we actually go and like run this. And then I should say like out of the box, we like build the login stuff for you. So I'm going to log in. Gary. All right, cool. So now we can see I've got a list of images, but when I click on them, nothing actually happens right now. OK, so this is the second thing, and that is when I actually like click on one of those images, what is it going to do? So we have a bunch of different actions that you could do. Either you could link to another screen. So in this case, I'm going to link to the trip screen. I also could have created something, but that wouldn't really make sense if I just clicked on an image to create something. You can also trigger notifications, log in, log out, and other stuff. So in this case, I'm going to link over to the trip screen. And then I'm going to add on the trip screen a card list, and that has more information. So for example, now I'm going to make this a list of trips. And then if I go and preview this right now, and I click on Alaska, for example, then like I see all of the trips, which is not great, because I don't want all of the trips to show up. I only want the either Alaska trips to show up or the family fun trips to show up. So in the filter option, then you can choose, I only want to show the current destination trips. And then again, you can change like styling and those types of things. And then you also can set the text that shows up here. And then remember I talked about, we try to like guess maybe what you'd want to do. So we have some smart defaults. But for example, like in this case, I'm going to make the subtitle the number of days. And I'm going to make the body text the short description. And again, then when I go preview it, if I click on family fun, then I see all of the family fun trips. And if I go and click on Hawaii, then I see all the Hawaii trips. And now I can see it has the description, the number of days, all that kind of stuff. All right, then the next and final thing we're going to do for this demo is when actually we want someone else to be able to add to that list. Because you could have populated it, but you also want your users to add things as well. So in this case, we're going to add a form. And then they're going to make a new trip. So you choose what they're going to make. And then again, we auto-populate it with all of the form fields that are the properties, so name, image, description, those types of things. And then afterwards, I'm going to link it back. And I go back to this thing, and I can go inside of Hawaii, click on the plus button, Hawaii demo. I can choose, well, there it is. I was prepped. And then this is a beautiful beach I want to be right now, not in the cold. 8-day trip. I'm from Florida, so like this stuff is just a mess. OK, so then you can create the trip. And then now that actually shows up in your list. So just like that, we've made a kind of like full list of destinations you can go to. And then you can see all the trips that you might want to see, and people could add their own trips to it. And then you could also keep adding more details like the itinerary on that trip and those types of things. All right, so that's kind of like in a very basic nutshell what it is. I'm going to get to that in a second. So then, OK, so now I'm going to go and show like, oh yeah, I can do this now, thanks. All the cool stuff that you can do on Adalo. So that's just kind of like basically how it generally works, but there's like a lot more, obviously, like complexity and stuff. So one thing is that you can publish it, like Jeremy was talking about, to Apple and Google, and also to a web domain as well. And they could all work connected across all of those platforms. And we're also super excited to announce, this took us a long time to do internally, but you can also, with one click, you can basically build it for iOS. And then if you are familiar with that process, then it goes straight to your test flight where you can download it. That's like Apple's testing device. And then you could submit it to the Apple Store. And then for Android, you can click to build it. And then there's a little different where you actually can download that file. And then you submit it to Google to actually get it submitted. And then you can keep making kind of all the changes and versions you want. And it automatically builds. It takes like 9 or 12 minutes or something. And then you submit it to the App Store. So I'm very excited about that because it was a big headache when we had to do that internally for everybody. All right, cool stuff you can do. All right, so first of all, push notifications. I don't know, the first time like you like see it happening is like a pretty magical thing actually come in. So you can do like chat, and then that can trigger it to a specific person, and then they can click on it and go to a specific screen. We also have payments and custom formulas. So this is like a food ordering app where you can choose the percentage. And then with our payment processing, right now it's integrated with Stripe. But you can do subscription. You can do like ACH bank transfers. So if it's like something that you don't want to take that out of, there's integration with Plaid. And there's saved credit cards. I'm trying to think of other things. What other stuff with that? Other stuff with payments. Next is that, and I kind of briefly mentioned this, but you can connect multiple apps together. So much like Uber has like a driver app, and then there's like a rider app. So in this example, there's like I want to like take a class, and then I want to submit that. And then on the other side would be like the teachers could have their own app. And you could that could also be inside of one app if you wanted it to, but you also would have the ability to submit both of those to the app stores. We also have one in the App Store that has 3 apps connected, which is really crazy. So it's like a landlord, a tenant, and a contractor, and they all have different apps for their thing. That was fun. And then another cool thing is that, kind of with our guiding principle being like, it should be simple, but also really powerful. We do want you to be able to like brand it the way that you want to brand your app. And that kind of goes back to the making it feel like a design tool where like you really can change all of the styles and edit it to feel, the way you would want to make it feel with like shadows and rounding and all those types of things. Another feature we did was like screen backgrounds so that, again, you could kind of make it the way you wanted to. So in this one, and I'm going to go to another video because a 1-minute GIF is a little blurry. So this is going to show how you can connect to an external API. So basically in like 60 seconds, I'm going to connect this to Airtable, and then you can like update, for example, like the Airtable. So you could have like your data stored, part of your data stored in one system, and then also part of your data stored in our system. So we have the regular database collections, which you saw, like the trips and destinations. And this isn't playing. There we go. But then at the bottom, you can connect to an API. And basically, you go out to Airtable, and you connect your authentication token or key. And then basically, you copy and paste that in. Again, it's sped up. And then you basically, for technical people, there's like get all, get one, create, update, and delete. And then now it's already inside of the app. And then you basically can set, and it behaves the same exact way as all those other data systems were working. So we try to keep it like as similar to like you having a mixed blended model of those types of things. And then so you can set like what all those properties are going to be with forms and that type of stuff. And then when I actually go and like create a new lead, or this is showing that I'm like seeing the leads that came from that Airtable, and then I can see all the details about that. And then I also can create a new lead, and then that will automatically get updated back in Airtable in a second. All right, cool. And then we also have, nice on-cue answer with Zapier, whoever that was. So we also have a Zapier integration. For people who don't know what Zapier is, it basically is an app that connects to every other app, well, not every other app, but 1,500 other apps. So what that means is like if I click on a button, you could have that go to your Zapier account, and then that could trigger like a Slack message to go to somebody, or a text message to go to somebody, or an email to go to somebody, or any other system that is connected with the 1,500 plus apps on Zapier.
And then you can also have that trigger data that comes back into Adalo and saves your updates data as well.
All right, so what can you make? So there's kind of 2 overall categories for what people are making on Adalo. The first is problems that don't justify $60,000, and that's like what the average cost of making a mobile app was, or kind of still is. So that might be small businesses. This is an example of it's like a high-end fitness gym where he used to send his workouts through spreadsheets and email, and now he's sending them through his own personal app. Local issues, so there was a village in Africa, and now they have doctors that chat back and forth with those people. You also have niche communities. So Tiny Superheroes it's for people with special needs, and they have like capes, and you can like do these missions, and then you get new badges for your cape. Side hustles are another great thing for these types of no-code tools. This is like a local person who makes food. It's kind of like a local version of like a food delivery service. But like what her app does is it calculates how many ingredients she needs to buy for every meal based on the number of people that are actually purchasing stuff that week. And then another use case is really great for businesses, and that's if you're doing anything in a spreadsheet and then in an email, and that process is going back and forth at either your small business or even at large like enterprises, then chances are like you could easily make that into some sort of app that would really save you time. So this was like a feedback system that they had where they were filling out in a spreadsheet and people had to respond back to those things. And this app let them like merge, and then it would Slack message them and those types of things. The second category is problems that don't justify $60,000 yet, and that would be like startups. So for example, people have built like marketplace startups. Like Buzzer Beater is, you can like order like, or you can see what barbers are available right now, kind of like local individual barbers that don't really have shops around the city. Tavolo is like a meal ordering system where you order your food and then go to that, and then it's in-person dining, which is pretty cool. So like really great for like lunches and stuff like that in Minneapolis. Paradeals is trying to fight like food insecurity, so you can find perishable deals before they go bad. Chant is like a social media, so lots of social media types of apps can get built on Adalo. And then final one would be like SMB, like SaaS products. Those types of things are really great. This was the one I was talking about that has the 3 different apps in the App Store. So yeah, so the future is definitely no code. Obviously, that's why you all are here. And like the demand for you all in this room and designers is like really going to skyrocket. And I know people like sometimes don't necessarily think of themselves as like designers unless they're like, because they don't think like only like UX designers or visual designers have to have that title, but like anyone who's like tinkering and solving problems like is a designer in my opinion. And this type of no code system and all the great companies that are here today are really going to unlock a lot of that potential. So thank you guys so much.
Do we have time for a couple questions?
You asked one last time, so.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay,
We'll
so
do
go back.
Yeah. No.
A cool product, thanks. I love the fast video. I think I caught it all. So say I build an app and I'm wildly successful and I have 100,000 users and they're now contributing to user content and I have millions of rows in 5 different tables or something like that. What do you have that's going to help me manage that? Because all I see here is a design tool for a mobile app.
Yeah, I mean, so first of all, you can paginate any of that data that's within the app so that it can keep the performance nice and high. In terms of managing the data on the back end, right now, you can search through all the tables. You can do operations on them, like deleting a bunch of users or like editing and all that. We don't, I would say at this point, have great tools for doing kind of individual, like I guess mass actions at like the millions of users level, but what we are working on releasing in the next couple of months is the public API for Adalo, which will let you do that on an API level if you're actually at that scale. But one important thing to know is each Adalo app has its own separate actual Postgres database, so that can be scaled, to millions of users and millions of rows. And that's something that's kind of unique versus a lot of the tools that are based on things like spreadsheets and external systems like that. So I think it is much better suited for that than a lot of the other tools out there.
Can you tap into that Postgres?
So at the moment, you don't have direct SQL access to the Postgres, but through the API, you'll get 90% of that. Yeah.
Over here. Awesome demo. Two things. You mentioned custom formulas. What do you mean by custom formulas? Is that where code comes in, or do you have visual third-party formulas
No,
as well?
it's a little more like using formulas in Excel, but I guess even a little simpler than that. Just arithmetic or some basic things like that are pretty easy to do. And we're working on adding more there as well.
And second, after you answer the custom formulas,
David's working on showing that.
demo. A lot of the design side of things in Adalo, it kind of just looks like material design. Is there more custom design than that, or is it really just drag and drop blocks right now?
Right. So a lot of the ease of use stuff is, and this is the formulas you're asking about. So this is basically totally visual, like you're just writing math functions.
Are there third-party connections with like Zapier for input yet, or is it?
So yeah, so you can.
Yes,
you can. To answer your third question, you can. Then you have to repeat your second question. But yeah, so with Zapier, you can both trigger Zapier actions through Adalo, and then you can also push data back in. So you can also like update or delete records when things happen externally. And sorry, what was the second?
He was talking about like so I'm going to show the simple thing.
Oh yeah. So basically, you also do have access to build basically from scratch with rectangles, with text, with images, all kind of the basic elements. And those are really just designed around how things work in Sketch and the popular design tools. So you have pretty much full customizability, and you can group things. You can put them in logical groupings and stuff.
Are there keyboard shortcuts?
Yes, there are. So you can copy paste. You can type R to add a rectangle. You can do all kinds of things. Command Z, all that popular stuff.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Last question over here. Just questions. And I get that I guess you could do this through Zapier or different means, but do you have any existing user that has access to smart contracts in Ethereum or some distributed ledger?
So at this point, we don't. We got several questions about that early on, and we haven't gotten as many lately as you can probably guess. But that should be doable through the external API support. So I mean, I guess that's probably the best way at this point. Like David was showing you that animated GIF. You can tap into basically any RESTful API, which there are a lot on top of Ethereum already, and there's others. You could create one also. Yeah.
I think we have.
One more. I think he's got the. Unfortunately, we don't have the power.
Thanks for a demo. To what extent can developers say, like, let's say you build an MVP and then you want to extend it, expose themselves to the underlying, say, APIs offered by Apple, for instance, right? So like ARKit, for instance.
Yep. There's a couple ways you can do that, and we're working on releasing more. And this actually ties in back to the material question as well. All the material components that you saw were built as a library that plugs into Adalo, and we're working on adding support for individuals to also build their own libraries that plug into Adalo, and that's going to launch sometime in the next couple of months. And that will let you basically build a UI component for anything that can use any native functionality or access some of those types of features. Yep.
All right. Thank you, Jeremy and David. Let's give it up for.
Thank you, guys.